Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 396 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about the offseason the Pittsburgh Pirates have had so far. When it comes to the baseball offseason, there are some teams whose issues are so obvious that it becomes maddening when they don't make moves to improve. The Pittsburgh Pirates came into this offseason with one major issue: having the worst offense in all of baseball. They ranked 28th with a .231 batting average, 30th with 117 home runs, and 30th with 583 runs. And one could call it a pleasant surprise that they have made moves, starting with a trade for second baseman Brandon Lowe, who since joining the league in 2018 has hit 157 home runs, the second most by a second baseman in that time span, behind only Jose Altuve. And they have also signed first baseman Ryan O'Hearn to a 2-year, $29 million deal. He was an all-star for the first time, hitting 17 homers and driving in 63 runs. We can all agree it's important for the team to get better and get better fast. The last time the Pirates finished with an above 500 record was 2018, and they haven't made the playoffs since 2015, and there's real pressure on the team because they need to take advantage of the fact that they have one of, if not the best starting pitcher on the planet right now in Paul Skeens, who in 2 years has won Rookie of the Year and a Cy Young Award. I hate to say it, but as of this moment, no one actually believes the Pirates are going to lock him up on a long-term deal, and many love to speculate on the idea that they will trade him away to a bigger market like LA, Boston, or New York, and this absolutely drives me nuts. That is absolutely not what the Pirates should do. They should hold on to Paul Skeens for as long as humanly possible until he either asks out or signs a bigger deal with another team. I get the idea. You trade away Paul Skeens and you can get a bunch of prospects in return, and then you can start a rebuild. I think you're too early in the process. He has only pitched for you for 2 seasons. If this was year 4 of Paul Skeens and you knew he was going to walk away in 2 years, then absolutely go and trade him. But right now, you need to see how far you can take this. Is Paul Skeens so special that he can help you get back to the postseason? That is something the Pirates need to find out. In Paul Skeens' 2 years with the Pirates, the organization has never fully gone in, and call me crazy, maybe if you actually do some winning, you could convince Paul Skeens to stay there long term. And one of the biggest reasons that now is the right time for the Pirates to strike is because the NL Central is wide open. The Cubs are likely to lose star outfielder Kyle Tucker. The Brewers may end up trading pitcher Freddie Peralta. Most believe the Cincinnati Reds are the new young exciting team in the division, but perhaps it could end up being the unlikely Pittsburgh Pirates. One might look at these moves and say to themselves they aren't huge. Well, it is worth noting the Pirates tried to sign Kyle Schwarber, but he went back to Philadelphia. For a team like them to end up with a big name, they either need to trade for one or overpay in free agency. Outfielder Jason Worth famously went to the Nationals because they paid him $126 million. I really like what the Pittsburgh Pirates are doing, but their offense was so bad last year. There needs to be more moves on the horizon. They should be going after more elite offensive talent. Luis Arraez is a 3-time batting champ. He's not going to cost you a lot of money. He's not going to get a long-term deal. Give him a short-term one and let him be your designated hitter, and he'll give you a professional at-bat every time he's at the plate. Bring in a veteran who has been there before. I get that power hitters are all the rage, but when you're looking at free agency, you need to look at the best available players, and I believe that Luis Arraez is one of the best available free agents, and he makes a ton of sense for a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who had the worst offense in all of baseball. Even if they had just ended up with Kyle Schwarber, I don't believe that would have been enough. You brought in O'Hearn, he makes a ton of sense. You brought in Brandon Lowe, he makes a ton of sense. Luis Arraez also makes too much sense not to happen. Another veteran player the Pirates should be all in on is third baseman Eugenio Suarez. He hit 49 home runs last season. I know he doesn't hit for a high batting average, but the Pirates need real power in that lineup to go along with Brandon Lowe. I mean, this is a guy who is going to hit between 35 to 40 home runs. He didn't make sense in Seattle. He makes way more sense with the Pirates. I'm at a point right now where I believe Pittsburgh is going to improve mightily. I think they have a chance to be a team above 500. But if they add a few more bats, I think they could have playoff aspirations. The key here being Paul Skeens. They have that elite pitcher. The Detroit Tigers have become a postseason team because they have Tariq Skubal. Yes, they have a good offense. I would call it a good enough offense around Skubal, but Skubal has been the key for the Tigers being a postseason team. If you get an average offense to go along with Paul Skeens, you have a really good chance of winning 90 to 95 games. The Pirates spending money is a big deal because this is a team that in the last few years has not been willing to. They are one of 8 teams last year that had a payroll less than $100 million. To give you some perspective, the Colorado Rockies spent more money last year than the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's pretty jarring. So if you are a fan of the Pirates, you have to be absolutely pumped that they are willing to spend money. I mean, yeah, when you heard they were in on Kyle Schwarber, maybe you were like, that's never going to happen. But seeing them going out and getting a guy like Ryan O'Hearn, trading for Brandon Lowe, I am somebody who grew up a fan of a huge market team in the Boston Red Sox. If the Red Sox had signed Ryan O'Hearn, it would have just been another Friday. But him going to Pittsburgh is a big deal because this is a team that doesn't have that kind of money and usually isn't willing to spend what they do have. I remember being in high school when the Pirates had one of the better teams in the National League. They had Andrew McCutchen. They had Garrett Cole. They had really good talent on their roster, and since that time period, they have been one of the worst teams in all of baseball. These moves are making them one of those teams that I'm rooting really hard for come next season because of so many elements. It's been a while since they've been a good team. I think these are really good, sound baseball moves. They have Paul Skeens. I want to see him pitch in the postseason. I want the postseason to be a place where you see the absolute best starting pitchers go 6 or 7 innings deep. That's what was so great about last postseason. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was throwing complete games during the World Series. I don't want relief pitchers dominating the postseason. The only reliever who's historically known for his great postseason pitching has been Mariano Rivera. When I think of the postseason, I think about Randy Johnson. I think about Andy Pettitte. I think about Curt Schilling. I think about starting pitchers. That's where they make a name for themselves, and hopefully Paul Skeens gets a chance to do so in the near future. I do want to talk a little bit more about Skeens and his future with the team, because this feels like the crucial year for the Pirates to find out if they can keep this guy beyond this year. Because if this year ends up being a disaster and these moves don't pan out and there's still a team losing 90 plus games, then they'll probably have to move on from the ace come next offseason. And that to me is another reason to root for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't want to see the old story play out again. I don't want to see Paul Skeens play for the Yankees, the Mets, or the Dodgers. That story's been told over and over and over and over and over again, and it will continue to happen. I want Paul Skeens to pitch, 5 to 6 years in Pittsburgh, have great success, and then he can go play for whoever he wants to play for. I don't want one of the bigger market teams getting this guy in a trade. I say this as a fan of the Boston Red Sox. It is better for baseball for Paul Skeens to be a dominant pitcher in Pittsburgh than it is for him to be a dominant pitcher in a bigger market. Yes, maybe more people would care about the fact that he's playing for the Dodgers, but the Dodgers don't need another Paul Skeens. The Pirates are desperate for one. He's their best player, far and away. One of the best things about this offseason in baseball is it's been a good one for smaller market teams. They are making moves. The Orioles, of course, landed Pete Alonso. Baseball is up there with basketball as my favorite sport, but I have to admit, it needs to get to a place where it feels like most teams are at least trying to compete at a high level. And a problem has been, in years past, there have been a number of teams who have not been trying to improve. And nothing gets me more upset than a team that is perceived to be rebuilding being bad year after year after year. So if I'm critical of these teams, I have to give them credit when they do things, and that's why I'm here talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates, because I have been upset with them over the last 2 years that they've had Paul Skeens. I'm like, guys, you have the best pitcher in the National League. You need to take advantage of the moment. He doesn't need to spend his entire career with the Pirates for him to make an impact on your team. Barry Bonds did not spend his entire illustrious career with the Pirates, but the few years you had him, it was a big deal, and you took advantage of the moment. I like Brandon Lowe and Ryan O'Hearn an awful lot, but most people still look at the Pirates and say that their only selling point is the fact that they have Paul Skeens, and they need to change that perception. They need people to look at them as an organization more so than one singular player. I mean, look at the Angels. When people think about the Angels, they only think about Mike Trout. There's not a whole lot else going on over there right now, and that's the feeling that I have had about the Pirates. You have Paul Skeens, what else are you going to do? And they're finally doing things that I think are going to have a positive impact on the baseball field. And maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Again, we are talking about the team that had the worst offense in all of baseball, and they finally are trying to improve on that. And it's not like they're adding guys who are going to hit 40 homers and drive in 120, but they are adding more than one guy. I think Kyle Schwarber would have been a big deal. Do I think if the Pirates' only move was adding Kyle Schwarber, they could become a postseason team? Absolutely not. I like the Pirates adding multiple guys. And again, I think they should add multiple more. 39-year-old Andrew McCutchen was third on the team with 13 home runs. This is a team that desperately needs to hit more homers if they're going to be a good baseball team. Brandon Lowe has hit 30 homers twice in his career. O'Hearn is a solid player. He's a good hitter, but he is not a power hitter. He has never hit 20 homers in his career. Is there a part of me that hopes that the Pirates make a huge splash that nobody saw coming? I mean, what if the team ends up with Bo Bichette or Alex Bregman? I mean, both of those players make a ton of sense for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, people are talking about Bichette like he can't play shortstop anymore. The Pirates should be more than willing to let this guy play shortstop if he's going to hit 300 and drive in 90 runs. And I really do credit Alex Bregman with help turning the Red Sox into a playoff team last year. He is the exact kind of guy you would want to bring to Pittsburgh. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. But I want one more shocking surprise to come from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I obviously think it should be an offensive player. Like, yes, would I be cool if they brought in Framber Valdez? Absolutely. To add him with a guy like Paul Skeens, you could arguably have the best 1-2 punch in the National League. But more importantly, you should be looking to fix your weaknesses. And for the Pirates, that's clearly on offense. It sounds really simple to say out loud, but all the Pirates need to do is win a lot of baseball games to become a premier destination, a destination that somebody like Paul Skeens would be willing to stay long term, because they have one of the best ballparks in the sport. Everyone talks about PNC Park and how it is an elite ballpark and a great place to play with a good fan base. And I'm not naive. I know it's really hard for the Pirates to consistently compete with teams like the Philadelphia Phillies, who have a boatload of money to spend each and every offseason. But every now and again, you have to put your chips on the table and make some moves. It's still quite early in the offseason. There are big names still out there. But as of this moment on this podcast, I am here to decree that the team that has had the best offseason of any of the teams in the NL Central is the Pittsburgh Pirates. That doesn't mean these moves are going to pan out. Brandon Lowe has yet to produce anything in a Pittsburgh Pirates uniform. Ryan O'Hearn has yet to produce in a Pittsburgh Pirates uniform. But before they made these moves, I was not at all interested in watching the Pirates play baseball outside of games pitched by Paul Skeens. Now I'm going to follow the team. I'm going to see if these moves help them become a better team. I'm rooting for them to at the very least win 85 games next year, which I do think is a possibility. And one of the reasons is because they do have talent on the pitching side outside of Skeens. Mitch Keller is a very good starting pitcher. Now, he lost 15 games, but that says more about the Pittsburgh Pirates than it does about Keller. They also have a really good closer in Dennis Santana. And yes, there are guys on offense on their team that I do like. O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds. I think that's the thing about the baseball offseason that gets overlooked. We talk about the new players having an impact and putting up stats, but you also have to think about what these moves mean for the players already on the roster. Paul Skeens is probably pumped that the Pirates are finally making moves. O'Neal Cruz is pumped. Brian Reynolds is pumped. They are so used to losing. These moves are going to get them reinvigorated and hopefully having some of the best seasons they've ever had as players. I don't know if the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to make the playoffs. I don't know if the Baltimore Orioles are going to make the playoffs, but I'm rooting hard for it to happen because I want these kind of mid-market teams to be competitive in the offseason, to try to make moves, to try to make the playoffs. And if these moves don't pan out, I don't want the Pirates to just go back to being bad for the next 7 years. I am somebody who believes the Pirates could have been good each of the last 2 years they had Paul Skeens. They just didn't make enough moves. They didn't invest enough on offense. Now they finally are, and I'm here for it, and I hope it was well worth the wait. I'm not anti-rebuild. I'm into teams having prospects and getting excited for them. What I'm anti is not investing enough on the major league roster. You should have been a 500 team each of the last 2 years when you had a Rookie of the Year and Cy Young Award winner. Paul Skeens won the Cy Young going 10-10. He would have won 20-plus games on a lot of other teams, but the Pirates offense held him back from winning more games. I hope that changes this year. Paul Skeens, I want you to win 20 games, and I hope it's because the Pirates have vastly improved. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.